Should I enter my old house? As in Turgenev's story, a torrent of Italian music came from an open window, that of the living room. What romantic soul was playing the piano where no piano had plunged and plashed on that bewitched Sunday with the sun on her beloved legs? All at once I noticed that from the lawn I had mown, a golden-skinned, brown-haired nymphette of 9 or 10 in white shorts was looking at me with wild fascination in her large blue-black eyes. I said something pleasant to her, meaning no harm, an old-world compliment, what nice eyes you have, but she retreated in haste, and the music stopped abruptly, and a violent-looking dark man, glistening with sweat, came out and glared at me. I was on the point of identifying myself when, with a pang of dream embarrassment, I became aware of my mud-caked dungarees, my filthy and torn sweater, my bristly chin, my bum's bloodshot eyes. Without saying a word, I turned and plodded back the way I had come. An aster-like anemic flower grew out of a remembered chink in the sidewalk. Quietly resurrected, Miss Opposite was being wheeled out by her nieces onto her porch, as if it were a stage, and I the star performer. Praying she would not call to me, I hurried to my car. What a steep little street! What a profound avenue! A red ticket showed between wiper and windshield. I carefully tore it into 2, 4, 8 pieces. Feeling I was losing my time, I drove energetically to the downtown hotel where I had arrived with a new bag more than 5 years before. I took a room, made 2 appointments by telephone, shaved, bathed, put on black clothes, and went down for a drink in the bar. Nothing had changed. The bar-room was suffused with the same dim, impossible garnet-red light that in Europe years ago went with low haunts, but here meant a bit of atmosphere in a family hotel. I sat at the same little table where at the very start of my stay, immediately after becoming Charlotte's lodger, I had thought fit to celebrate the occasion by suavely sharing with her a half-bottle of champagne, which had fatally conquered her poor brimming heart. As then, a moon-faced waiter was arranging with stellar care 50 sherries on a round tray for a wedding party. Murphy Fantasia this time. It was 8 minutes to 3. As I walked through the lobby, I had to skirt a group of ladies who with mille grâces were taking leave of each other after a luncheon party. With a harsh cry of recognition, one pounced upon me. She was a stout, short woman in pearl grey with a long grey, slim plume to her small hat. It was Mrs. Chatfield. She attacked me with a fake smile, all aglow with evil curiosity. Had I done to Dolly perhaps what Frank LaSalle, a 50-year-old mechanic, had done to 11-year-old Sally Horner in 1948? Very soon I had that avid glee well under control. She thought I was in California. How was, with exquisite pleasure, I informed her that my stepdaughter had just married a brilliant young mining engineer with a hush-hush job in the Northwest. She said she disapproved of such early marriages. She would never let her Phyllis, who was now 18. "Oh, yes, of course," I said quietly. "I remember Phyllis. Phyllis and Camp Q. Yes, of course. By the way, did she ever tell you how Charlie Holmes debauched there his mother's little charges?" Mrs. Chatfield's already broken smile now disintegrated completely. "For shame," she cried. "For shame, Mr. Humbert. The poor boy has just been killed in Korea." I said, didn't she think vient de, with the infinitive, expressed recent events so much more neatly than the English just with the past? But I had to be trotting off, I said. There were only 2 blocks to Windmuller's office. He greeted me with a very slow, very enveloping, strong, searching grip. He thought I was in California. Had I not lived at one time at Beardsley? His daughter had just entered Beardsley College, and I gave all necessary information about Mrs. Schiller. We had a pleasant business conference. I walked out into the hot September sunshine, a contented pauper. Now that everything had been put out of the way, I could dedicate myself freely to the main object of my visit to Ramsdale. In the methodical manner on which I have always prided myself, I had been keeping Claire Quilty's face masked in my dark dungeon, where he was waiting for me to come with barber and priest. Réveillez-vous, la queue, il est temps de mourir. I have no time right now to discuss the mnemonics of physiognomization. I am on my way to his uncle, and walking fast, but let me jot down this. I had preserved in the alcohol of a clouded memory the toad of a face. In the course of a few glimpses I had noticed its slight resemblance to a cheery and rather repulsive wine dealer, a relative of mine in Switzerland. With his dumbbells and stinking tricot and fat hairy arms and bald patch and pig-faced servant concubine, he was on the whole a harmless old rascal. Too harmless, in fact, to be confused with my prey. In the state of mind I now found myself, I had lost contact with Trapp's image. It had become completely engulfed by the face of Claire Quilty, as represented with artistic precision by an easeled photograph of him that stood on his uncle's desk. In Beardsley, at the hands of charming Dr. Molnar, I had undergone a rather serious dental operation, retaining only a few upper and lower front teeth. The substitutes were dependent on a system of plates with an inconspicuous wire affair running along my upper gums. The whole arrangement was a masterpiece of comfort, and my canines were in perfect health.